It's almost impossible to believe that this scenario could have played out at a Colorado funeral home. 189 bodies stacked on tables, stacked on the floor, stacked against the wall, stacked anywhere you could possibly fit them. When you actually look at this funeral home, you'd be hard pressed to guess that 190 living people could actually fit in there, more or less 190 bodies. That's exactly what took place at a Colorado funeral home called Return to Nature. And now those funeral home directors facing charges for those actions. It's really a shocking story when you think about it. Joining me to discuss, Neama Rahmani, former federal prosecutor. Neema, this is one that almost defies logic when you think about it. What was your reaction when you heard that this is what was taking place in that small Colorado funeral home?
Tony, I was shocked. Nothing would shock us because uh, the shock and awe of everything we cover
Yeah.
every week on the show. But this is beyond the pale. This is disgusting. I can't even imagine the stench inside and outside that funeral home with the rotting, decomposing bodies. What a public health hazard.
Mhm. How does something like this take place? I know Colorado's laws are fairly lax when it comes to funeral homes and inspections and such. Is this just really an example of that? Of no real strict regulation and somebody going in and checking on it? And if so, could this be going on elsewhere as well?
It can, Tony, and a lot of states don't have real significant oversight of funeral homes. Imagine, like, who would want to be the government employee that's responsible for that? You know, there was a similar case I recall a couple years ago out of Ohio where a funeral someone was not licensed but represented himself to be a funeral director was taking these bodies. I don't know what he was doing with them, but I remember that case did actually go to trial as well, and the victims' families had to come testify. And it's really sad because you lose a loved one, and now you got to kind of be victimized all over again because you don't know what, if anything, happened to their body or their remains.
And it's shocking. They're having to go back now and try to identify the bodies through fingerprints, dental records, DNA. You can only I don't want to imagine it, but you can only imagine 190 bodies sitting there decomposing on top of one another. Eventually, it's going to be very hard to identify who is who or what is what. With there not being a lot of
Yeah.
regulations in the state of Colorado, what kind of charges are can be brought here against these funeral home directors if there's not a lot on the books to say you can or can't do something like this?
Yeah, I mean, usually most states have charges regarding, abuse or tampering with corpse. Obviously, we're talking about fraud cases because, they took money from folks and they didn't provide the service that they said they would. So there's definitely charges that can be brought, especially when you have so many bodies, so many counts. It's going to add up pretty quickly, Tony.
We've seen other cases somewhat similar to this with some funeral homes where body harvesting was the goal, and there's a huge industry for that on the black market of and on the regular market of harvesting organs and then having them out there for transplants. And in theory, a good thing when it's done correctly and legally. But there are shady places that have done things like this. We don't know what exactly was going on here, and from what we've found so far, there hasn't been a lot of evidence of that. I'm just speaking speculatively here, but what on earth do you think was going on at this funeral home and to why they would even want to put themselves in this sort of situation?
Yeah, I don't understand, Tony. You'd think it'd be not a very difficult process to cremate the bodies, which it seems like some of the folks wanted to do. Obviously, we know how valuable land is and how expensive funeral plots are. But you're right. I mean, there's a huge black market for these organs. And frankly, there's a sick market for collectors of different body parts as well, believe it or not. I mean, there's cases that I've covered where someone just wanted an organ or a severed limb or a head or an extremity. I mean, it's pretty sick stuff out
Yeah.
there, but it doesn't seem like this was the case. This was just pure the laziness, just a scheme to take money without doing any of the work. It seems like what we're dealing with here.
Is this one of those things where a mom's going to look at their kid and go, if you don't pick up your room, someday you're going to end up like those funeral home people that collected 190 bodies.
Yeah. So Tony, remember when we were kids, we'd have dares if you're going to spend the night in the graveyard. Even at my old age, I can even spend an hour in this funeral home. I mean, this is one of the most terrifying and disgusting things that I can think of.
Without a doubt. Hey, it's Tony Brueski. If you want more of our interview with our guests, be sure to check out our podcast, Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Just search that wherever you download podcasts and press subscribe. Also, you can check out our YouTube channel for the full video version of the interviews as well, under the same name, Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Check it out, subscribe, binge, and enjoy. Thanks for watching.